Good morning to you all. This is Regina
Good morning.
Sharma, Deputy Director of International Relations Council. Today's webinar is dedicated to the initiatives taken during COVID-19. Along with the greatly commendable roles played by the law enforcement authorities as well as the medical world, it is vital to recognize the roles played by the NGOs and individuals on the humanitarian front. With us today, we have some very valuable speakers who have agreed to share their opinions, perspectives, as well as experiences regarding the same. Our special speaker today is Mr. Shehenshah Mirza, who has also gracefully agreed to be our mediator for the entire webinar also. Mr. Mirza is a senior central government official, Ministry of Finance. He has co-authored two books. He is also a dedicated social and green activist. And lastly, he's also a passionate human being about preserving heritage. We cannot thank him enough for embracing two vital roles in this webinar today. Thank you so much, sir. And I request you to take over the rest of the webinar session.
I would like to thank International Relations Council for arranging this webinar. I think this is an extremely important subject which they are dealing with, and people at large should also know about the good work that various individuals and NGOs are doing during this lockdown. This year will certainly go down in history as one of the worst years in last 400, 500 years. The last 100 years, world had witnessed two great world wars: Spanish flu, Vietnam War, India's independence, followed by a bloody partition, Indo-China War, India-Pakistan War, numerous natural calamities like earthquake, volcanoes, cyclone, floods. And in all these, millions lost life, millions lost their livelihoods. But I think Corona is far more lethal and dangerous than all this. As we all know, this coronavirus started in China sometime last year from one of the wet markets in Wuhan. It spread to other cities in China, and then countries like Italy, Spain, Iran got affected. Their wisdom thought that it is important to control this virus because no one knew anything about this virus. This is a new virus, protocol, treatment for this. So they did best what they could do under the given circumstances, and they went for total lockdown. Countries after countries came to a standstill. We were seeing visuals on televisions and other social media, and it was a very, very horrifying sight. Some of the major cities of the world, which were busy 24 hours, came to a standstill. There was not a single soul on the road. It was absolutely unbelievable. That because of the lockdown, a lot of people lost their livelihood, thrown out of job. Small units had to close down. The worst hit were those who were daily wage earners, migrant workers, and people working at domestic help. It was not a good sight to hear or see or read that thousands and thousands of people are going hungry. Thousands and thousands of people are lining up to get food ration from different organizations. But among all this, there was a great silver lining. In our country, we have seen that more than 4.5 lakhs people have been affected because of this coronavirus. About 15,000 people have died. But the heartening news is that ever since this lockdown has started, thousands and thousands of individuals from different parts of the country, from different regions, from the hill stations to plains, to major cities, to small towns, to small villages, came forward in ones and twos, formed groups, different organizations, different NGOs. They came forward to help those who are needy. Some organization gave cooked food, regular intervals. Some organization gave dry rations so that they can cook at home. And this was a very, very positive development because India, we talk about unity in diversity, and I think this was a wonderful example. Many religious bodies open their places of worship so that they can accommodate those who have been affected by this COVID-19 problem. Many organizations open their centers so that food can be distributed. And they all had one motive to defeat this coronavirus. This morning, we have four panelists who had worked closely during this lockdown, and they are still working. We'd like to hear from them how they experienced this lockdown, because helping needy during this lockdown was also a challenge. Because in many parts of the country, police were very strict. They were not allowing vehicles to operate. And I'm sure it must be a very, very difficult task for them. So we have four eminent panelists this morning. We have Mrs. Yasmin Ghazala. She is Assistant Professor and former Head, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication from Alia University. We have Mrs. Ishani Darshani from Art of Living. We have Dr. Minal Kanti Chakma. He's an independent researcher. He's attached to Buddhist NGOs functioning in the Buddhist areas. And we also have Mr. Praneshwaran. He, along with his friends, had taken initiative to help people during this lockdown. So first, I'll start with Mrs. Yasmin Ghazala. Ma'am, I would like to know from you that how difficult it was, number one, to gather money, and share your experiences of how you got together along with some of your friends, collected provisions, and helped out the needy during this lockdown.
Good morning, everyone. And in these unprecedented times, these times which we have perhaps never ever imagined, that in the 21st century, where we learn the real importance of what connection really means, what human to human contact, human to human bonding really means. US or say any other part of the world, everything was just on the, at the tip of your hand. So when the Wuhan was happening, it was there in the backdrop. This started somewhere in around October. And we would see these host of videos that we would get, on WhatsApp and other social media platforms. They were there, but somehow you would not believe it. I mean, the way they were videos, and most of them were actually fake videos where people were dying, people falling on the roads, loads and loads of dead bodies around. But you still, at least I chose to live in my own, isolated, protected world. But it was only in March, and at that point of time, my son was appearing for his board examinations. He had the paper next morning, and the lockdown happens. There was a Janta curfew called by the Prime Minister of the country, followed by complete lockdown in Bengal called by our Chief Minister. So it was then, that it kind of started to sink in that what really these values and relationships are. And perhaps the biggest realization that we've all made is the fact that we have been taking life perhaps a little too lightly. We have been taking it for granted. You look around the environment, the kind of destruction that we've caused. You look around, this rat race to kind of exceed and excel your own self by trying to belittle and perhaps take away the fortunes and take away the the rights of others is something which has brought us to this point. And perhaps I'm a believer that it's God's way of telling us to take a pause and think about where we are taking this globe, where we have taken Mother Nature, where we have taken our ecosystem, and just about everything. So it was at that point of time that we formed this organization called Ashka's Foundation. This is in my father-in-law's name. Mr. Kasimuddin Ashka was a very renowned lawyer. We lost him very early. He died a very early death. He was a philanthropist. He was he was the mayor in council. He was the education committee chairman in Kolkata. And he always, tried to reach out and help people. So, on his lines and on his visions, we started this organization a couple of years back where we wanted to do a little bit and return to society and people around us. So we primarily worked around the Kerala floods, and we tried to create relief. And this COVID-19 gave us the time, because I was like, we were thinking as to what should be the next agenda that the foundation should take up, and the COVID happens. So it gave us, this choice and this opportunity to kind of reach out to the society on a grassroots level. The best part about our initiative, the relief initiative that we did, was it was purely crowd-funded. So it was no one person can say that it is purely my contribution that I've done, but a lot of people came together. And social media platform, and I've been an ardent critic of some of the vices of social media, because I teach media myself. So you know how it's kind of disengaging, and it traps you in your own world, and you disconnect with the society around. But come to think of it, it was ironical. It was it was like an oxymoron. Here social media was bringing people together. So I just put up a post simply on Facebook, where I said that look, we want to help out people around, especially the migrant workers, the rickshaw pullers, the people living in the slums, the daily wage earners, who had absolutely no resources to even get 2 square meals a day. And that is how it started. And a whole group of friends and acquaintances from all across the world, they came together, and they were ready to help. They were ready to send the money. So the initial hiccup was how to receive the finances, because there are FCRA license issues and all, and we are a very young organization. So we're just trying to learn our way to kind of gather resources. But we took a stand, and we thought, no, we have to do it. This is the right time. And so we started this initiative in central Kolkata, and we reached out to all the central Kolkata localities like Machua, Tarachand Datta Street, then Beg Bagan, Topsia, even the suburbs of Kolkata, Malikpur, and later on, slowly and steadily, we even reached out to the Sundarbans area, because when things were being shared on social media, a lot of people got to know about our initiatives, and we reached out to roughly around 2,000 plus families, and this family would perhaps consist of an average of 4 members, and we were offering a week's grocery, ration, disinfectant soaps, masks, and things like that. It couldn't have kind of it was I think not much, but then it really kind of opened up vistas for us to kind of think that this fear and anxiety. See, COVID is a problem, of course. I mean, the contagion, the anxiety, more than you being dying a death out of it, it's the anxiety, it's the psychological impact that it has created on you. And I feel the only recourse that we have to fight this kind of fear and anxiety is when we reach out. Only then we get this feeling of positivity within our own self, and we feel that our life is fulfilled. So I would say perhaps it was just a way of kind of justifying your own existence when so much was at stake.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ghazala Yasmeen, for sharing your thoughts with us. Mrs. Ishani Priyadarshini from Art of Living, and Art of Living has been working for humanity since many years. It's a widely recognized body. It's a highly credible body. We watch on television, we watch on newspapers, how Art of Living reached out to the need during this lockdown. So I would like to hear from Mrs. Priyadarshini now.
Yeah, sure. Those of us who know about Art of Living, we know that internationally, in all 156 countries, whenever there's a crisis or a situation that needs support, Art of Living volunteers are always there at the front lines. So as he said before me, we knew already that things were happening in the rest of the world. It came to India a bit later. So what happened was that the government reached out to us. The government already had distress helplines set up, and they knew where the help was needed, but they did not have the huge resources needed to make it happen. So what happened is we did 2 kinds of distributions. One is dry ration for people who had the resources to cook, and the other was cooked food for people who had just no resources. So this was done using the ashrams wherever they are. Bangalore ashram, of course, has always been poised to, handle 1 lakh meals per meal time. So that was not as difficult as other states where the ashrams are smaller or where there are no ashrams. So volunteers themselves, they opened up their homes, they opened up their own kitchens to make the community cooking happen. And all the distribution was done by volunteers. But like Mr. Mehta mentioned, the problems of transport and police permissions, those were bypassed by working with the local authorities. So our volunteers would go properly attired with the local authorities and distribute food in places designated by the government. So this needed huge and huge lots of money. As you can see the numbers, those are numbers as on 13th of May. So that time we had 7.5 crore meals already served. So all these numbers, these were all funded by people like you and me, by corporates, and some by the government itself. As I said, so 7.5 crore meals distributed to over 25 lakh families. This is till the 13th of May. After that, we didn't get the data again. I didn't. Now, the best part was all these meals that were served were done with material sourced locally. So this did two things. One, it ensured we would have a sustainable supply. Two, it kept small local businesses alive. And then again, as I told you, safety was very important, right? For the volunteers who were going out, they needed to be safe. For the people that were being served, they needed to be safe. So while we were doing safety for ourselves and those we served, we suddenly realized that all around us, frontline COVID workers and some people who live in, say, slums or places where there's very little social distancing, they were the people who didn't have masks, who didn't have gloves. And then another initiative was born called IHB Care, which went and started distributing medical supplies and PPE to people that needed it the most. Now, one fun thing that, not fun, one very horrible thing that happened in lockdown was people lost access to things they're addicted to, like tobacco, like alcohol, like drugs. This created a completely different problem where withdrawal symptoms started happening and they went into depression or into suicidal mode. Now, having foreseen this, our founder had already launched an addiction helpline. This is in multiple Indian languages, and there are trained volunteers called Sahayogis who sort of talk a person through their withdrawal symptoms and slowly give them advice and techniques that can help them overcome their addiction, or at least the discomfort for the time being. Because, like we all said, like this lockdown was not just about body. So for some, the basic need that was missing was food. So they were given food. But then another section of us, we were comfortable, safe in our own homes. We had food, but we had lost another necessity, peace of mind. So all of you who have heard of the art of living know that we have this very beautiful, powerful breathing technique called the Sudarshan Kriya. So this normally happens in a classroom setting, right? There'll be a teacher, there'll be a group of students, we laugh, talk, and learn the Kriya. This was impossible during the lockdown. But mental health became even more important. So using technology, the Sudarshan Kriya was taken online as a meditation and breath workshop. Once we had done one or two, we realized that people doing the classes even online were getting a whole lot of benefits from it. So immediately we started also organizing special sessions of Sudarshan Kriya for the doctors, nurses, frontline staff of COVID hospitals, completely complimentary, of course. And this, if you ever Google this, you will see amazing experiences from doctors and nurses who have been on the front lines. And another very beautiful thing that happened was our founder himself started taking live meditations. You want to meditate, you sit. But you log in at 7:30 when you're feeling, oh, I'm all alone in the world, I'm alone in the house, I can go nowhere. And you log in and you see 12 lakh around the world meditating with you. I'm not alone. So everybody, I think every individual around the world, every company, every NGO has done so much. And I think it's all these small drops which have made the ocean. And I'd really like to thank everyone who still has humanity and love left in them. Because Corona will go away sooner or later, but fear and anxiety won't. And thankfully, we at Art of Living are very equipped to take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really impressive by any standard that you all distributed 7.5 crore meals. And I'm sure by now this figure must have gone up. Supporting 25 lakh family is a great.
Thank you.
I mean, I just can't describe that, what a great job you all have done. And I hope that you will continue doing humanitarian activities so that, people can benefit.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dr. Minal Kanti Chakma. He's an independent researcher from the Buddhist community. Sir, we would like to know from you your experiences during this lockdown.
Yes, at the outset, I would like to thank IRC for giving me this platform to share my experience. I belong to a tribal community named as Chakma community. To share the COVID pandemic experience of our community, I need to relate a little bit about our people, the location where we do live, as well as, how do we have, experience it or intervene or go through some kind of intervention. We as a community is a small community and doesn't figure in any kind of media or socio-political, importance. Most of our community people live in the bordering area of Bangladesh, in the state of Mizoram, Tripura, and one part of our community live in the state of Arunachal Pradesh, and a small section of our community people live in the remote areas of Assam. So I would like to divide our COVID experience in two parts. First of all, the migrant people, our own migrant workers living in different cities of India, doing small job in organized, unorganized sector in Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, etc. As soon as this lockdown started, people started suffering a lot. At first, they thought that within a couple of weeks, the thing will be normalized. But as soon as their whole resources getting depleted, the landlord started keep on pressuring them to leave home. So they were in a big trouble. In this kind of situation, our community-based student organization came up as a big help. They started communicating each other, noting down, each other location, understanding each other. In the tribal society, community bond is the main thing. So that community bond helped us a lot to understand each other. And we started urging for help to a little bit better off people who are in a better job within our society. And thus we are able to raise some fund. And some responsible student leaders were given that responsibility in those particular cities like in Delhi or in Bangalore, even in Chennai. And thus we came to know each other that some of them even got stuck up somewhere in Vizag. Some 40 of them stuck up there because all of a sudden they felt themselves into a kind of lockdown situation. So in this kind of situation, how do we work? We work only through the cyberspace, interacting each other. That would not be possible, I think, without these internet facilities. Somehow we are able to raise funds, channelize those funds to meet up the urgency over there. So this is how we try to, resolve the crisis situation. And still many of these migrant workers were involved or engaged in some kind of informal sector, lose their job and started going back to their home. Just, I think, last week only, one of our women gave birth in train somewhere close to Siliguri. That became a news. And somehow they name it something associated to, in our language called train pudi, means who was born in train. So that kind of situation even they face. And in all this endeavor, in all these supports, Buddhist monastic group help us a lot. In Bangalore, we are really thankful to Mahabodhi Society. They extended their help to many of our distressed people, community members over there. And similarly, the situation in the rural area where the overseas were, I think, the daily wage earners, small marginal farmers who used to sell their, whatever they produce in the local village market. and they found themselves, in a kind of starving situation. Immediately again, Buddhist monastic groups, the monk community, were informed. They started communicating the village local heads. We call them Gaunbura. So all the Gaunburas were contacted. We made the most vulnerable family and list 5,000 of them in Arunachal Pradesh, some in Tripura. We are able to raise some kind of fund and delivered it them in needs. Not only the rations, detergents, and soaps that our monastic leaders or monk community delivered to them. They also inform them, provide them the right kind of information available regarding the pandemic, how contagious it is, how to prevent themselves from getting infected from virus. All this information were explained to them side by side. I think that kind of awareness building helped a lot. And then when the migrant workers came back to their village, in their homes, so they were isolated. They were put up in the quarantine facilities by the government, and people knew clearly, how to get themselves or prevent themselves from further infection. So luckily, none of our community members died so far. They are recovering very fast. So that's in short, I can tell you our COVID experience. And another experience I must relate in this context is related to our Bodh Gaya experience. Since I am connected to many of the Buddhist NGOs in Bodh Gaya, as soon as this lockdown thing happened, many of the foreigners got stuck. I mean, our tourists, pilgrims from Thailand, from Vietnam, from Laos, Cambodia, so they got stuck in their particular monastic kind of setup. And they started communicating. Hardly they had any kind of local contact. There were language barrier, etc. Somehow we were able to provide the necessary kind of help, food support, etc. through our contacts. And the worst thing that happened amidst of all this lockdown, again in the first week of May, the government of Bihar gave one circular on order, pandemic of order. Bihar government was in a mood to transform the monasteries of Bodh Gaya into quarantine center, because a large number of residents from Bihar were coming back from UK, coming back from Middle East, some students coming back from Russia, etc. So in a kind of helpless situation, I don't know from where they got this idea to convert this monastery into quarantine center. Not only that, in that particular circular, they have mentioned that the monastic leaders or whoever is responsible are subject to the Pandemic Act. That means they can arrest them in case of denial. They can impose some kind of financial penalty in case of denial. So we found that quite absurd, because in the monastery, we don't have that kind of setup to, transform it into a kind of quarantine center, first of all. Second point is it's run from single kitchen. And thirdly, it doesn't fulfill the standard operational procedure of the government of India from Ministry of Health. But somehow we protested it. Many of the monks, very senior monks, started calling me. I am sitting over here in Calcutta. How to get rid of this? How to resolve this crisis? Then immediately I tried to contact a good number of my media friends. They started writing about it. And some of their writings even got reprinted there in Thailand, in Myanmar, and in many other parts of the country. And one of my friends over there in Delhi, Right and Risk Analysis Group, they, applied to the Prime Minister's office, PM office, addressed to the PM to resolve this crisis. Then finally, at the end, on 16th of May, government of Bihar, gave a decision not to acquire or transform this Buddhist monastery into quarantine center. So that's a good decision, I will say. I'm thankful to the Chief Minister of Bihar for taking that kind of decision. We felt that monasteries are always in favor of humanitarian service. The monks are always in favor of humanitarian service. since there is no way to reach the junior monks, novice monks who are underage, to put them into risk. One of the monks told me, I can put my life into risk for helping anyone, but I'm worried about the young junior novice monk. How can I put their life into risk? By changing my monastery or giving my monastery to be a part of the quarantine service or a kind of COVID service. Anyway, thank you so much for your presence sharing. That's it I wanted to say regarding my experience.
Thank you, sir. These are difficult moments in history, and during these difficult moments, you have to take a lot of drastic actions. But I'm very happy to note that all those migrant workers who returned, they were all put in isolation centers, and none of them died. I think this is really, really praiseworthy, because saving human life is the biggest achievement of any community, and you all have done a wonderful job. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Vishwanath Parameshwaran about his experiences. He, along with some of his friends, had started operating the kitchen of Oasis Restaurant, and they were helping the needy during this lockdown. Sir, we would like to hear something about your experiences.
Namaskar, I am Vishwanath Parameshwaran. The coronavirus is just it cannot be seen in naked eye. And just maybe weighs some thousands of milligrams को divide करके जो निकलता है, it weighs like that, and it cannot be seen. So similarly, I am a human being in this huge world, which is in the huge solar system, which is again in this huge Milky Way and whatnot. This lockdown happened on 24th March specifically. We were all in a shell shock. Things didn't filter in. Prior to that, we were in half stage of being misinformed by the various WhatsApp groups, which were feeding us lots of videos, informations, memes, half of which were fake. You never knew what to believe, what not to believe. Everything was like a jungle. Whether I should go out for my mandatory morning walks or not, that also I didn't know. Some were saying use a mask, some were saying no, don't go out. So I have a mother who is 75 years old. My brother told me, don't go out. We have an old mother. We have known that people with lesser immunity are getting afflicted faster, and the chances of the recovery is very low. So I heeded his advice. I was home for the first 2 or 3 days. On the third day, I thought, let's go out for my morning walk. We'll go early in the morning. I'll go, say, around 2-3 hours earlier. So by the time anybody realizes, I'll be back home. So I did that. So while I was coming back from the morning walk with my morning walk partner, on a route, we have 2 or 3 hospitals nearby. So on those hospitals, people were waiting outside, the outdoor patients and the rest. They were waiting outside. They were also like looking lost. They didn't have any shop to have a tea also. Neither did they have any shop where they could have a biscuit also. So seeing that, suddenly we both were discussing, both taklif hai yaar sabko. And while we were coming back, we thought, let's do something. Let's provide some breakfast for them tomorrow morning. We'll go for the morning walk. We'll carry some stuff. While coming back, we'll distribute some breakfast over there. We did that. My friend was Satish Kedia. When we came back home, I spoke to my mother and brother. I said, I want to do something for people. So you have to give me permission so that I can arrange lunch for them also. My mother, not only did she give her blessings, in spite of knowing that it was a pretty dangerous thing to do, being out. So she told me 2 things. One, to be careful, take precautions, necessary precautions. And 2, she gave me 500 rupees and said, this is my contribution to your effort. Same thing my brother did. He gave me 1,000 rupees, said, you go ahead, start it. Start doing whatever you can. I chipped in another $1,000. My friend chipped in another $1,000. We had some money in which we thought we could be able to cater to around, say, 150, 200 people if we provide khichdi to them. We did that. Next day, we wanted to do a little more. So I remembered I had a friend who had a kitchen. He's having a restaurant, Oasis restaurant. It's down in Park Street. It's a very famous restaurant. So I spoke to him, Pratap Deryanani. He told me, that's a very good idea, yeah. And he also informed me that there is a National Restaurant Association of India, NRAI. He said our association is also doing some good work in this field, and they are taking help of the various kitchens across the restaurant kitchens across Calcutta, cook food, which can be distributed. When I spoke to him regarding getting rations at low prices so that I could cater to more people with the same fund that I had. He said, I'll arrange a provision of food also. You do the distribution aspect. We got to that, we latched on to that. And he, with his group of friends, all restaurant owners like Wow Momo, Sagar Daryanani, Asif Ahmed of Sanja Chula, Rishabh Nahata, they are all restaurant holders and in the restaurant business. So he gave me everybody's phone number. I spoke to everyone. And from different kitchens, I started organizing, say, 200 packets from one kitchen, 200 packets from another kitchen, like that. So at one point of time, 600 packets of commitments, food commitments. I took help of my friend in Kalighat police station, Indro Rai Chaudhary. And he was also looking for somebody who could provide food for the vagrants. He gave me his Thana ambulance. With the help of that ambulance, we used to go around these restaurants, collect food from them, and then distribute to the areas where he felt that the needy people are there, in the sense that there are certain slums. Those people will be affected first because those slums carry daily wage earners who are unable to work. And he also deputed a few police officers. So with the help of those police officers, me and my friend Sadish Kedia, we started. In the meantime, when I uploaded some of the pictures of us doing that on social media, as it happens, some like it, some dislike it, some come up with some great comments, cynical people are there. But I continued sharing my work with other people, knowing that it will inspire others also and motivate others also into doing something similar or joining hands with me, so that cumulative effect of our efforts will lead to us helping out more people. And that is what happened. कुछ कर, उसके बाद photo डाल, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. डाल ना photo, कुछ कर तो. And a lot of people, a lot of my friends, on getting information through those media, they got in contact with me. Some provided their physical effort. They volunteered to come along with me. And some comments came first day without the permission of the family. And when the family also saw and heard about what was being done, they explicitly gave permission also to all of them. I have a group of basketball friends who we play basketball together. So Rahul Amin, Hitesh Rupani, Manish Hirawat, Manish Goenka, all friends, we joined in. We started going regularly, and we used to spend around, we used to go at around 11:30 when the food was getting cooked. We used to collect the food from there, distribute it among the needy, and go back. So these hospitals we used to cover, because these hospitals, these outdoor patients, the patients are getting food from the government, from the hospital itself. But the outdoor patients, they are not getting anything. So we started catering to them also, along with the slums. Slowly, this small drop in the ocean, it started. But then the ripple effect was there. And there was a point of time when we were catering to around 1,000 meals every day in the morning. On some days, we used to even give in the evenings also. People started pitching in funds also, my friends and friends of the friends. So slowly, the network became larger. Still, on this date, Pratap Deryanani is kind enough to continue feeding around 200 to 250 people still today also. So everybody have pitched in, everybody have given their hearts to the project. One of my friend, Paras Vora, he suddenly saw pictures of us distributing food. We were all wearing masks, hand gloves. He came down one day. He said, give me your size, tell me your size. I'll arrange PP suits for you. That was his contribution. He thought about it. He thought that we should be safe. He told me one simple thing. If you are safe, you will be able to provide more service. So you better wear those masks. Along with that, you wear the PP suit. So he provided 7-8 pieces of PP suits for me and my volunteer friend. So this way, we could connect to people more. We were distributing food one day in front of PG Hospital. Suddenly a car came, stopped, took some pictures, and he handed me over a carton of masks. And he told me, you distribute it as per your liking to people whom you feel fit. who need it. That is his way of contribution. One Mr. Harshada came over. He contacted me. He said, I want to distribute cold drinks and mishti doi to all the ladies and the kids. I said, ladies, kids ko aisa separate denge to ghar mein lafda rahega unke. So he said, okay, I'll provide to everybody. So 4 or 5 days he did that. So these are small incidents, but it goes to show you how people went out to express themselves, to express their love for unknown people, which is very important. We didn't know anybody, but now we know everybody. When I go to the market now, few people on the road, Dada bhalo achen, just to express their gratitude for what we did earlier. I don't need that gratitude, but that sense of friendliness that I have with another person now in life, that itself is very gratifying. Thank you very much. I don't have anything else to add.
Thank you, sir. I always believe, I tell people that feeding a hungry soul is one of the biggest form of charity.
Absolutely.
And all of you all are doing a wonderful job. You are almost my age, and I don't want to give you any suggestion, but since we are discussing this, I feel tempted to tell you something about this photo thing. A lot of people, they get their pictures printed in newspapers, on social media and other forms of communication. Some do it for publicity. I'm not talking about them, but people like you who are doing real, genuine work, it is important for you all to display your work to others, because
absolutely, I believe in it.
Encourage others. This will give them ideas that if Vishwanathan Parameshwaran and his friends can also do, we can also do. If absolutely. They can feed 1,000 people, at least we can feed 10 people.
Absolutely.
These are all chain reactions. I'm sure what the work that you did, you must have also got some idea from somewhere. Okay? That is how the civilization progress.
Absolutely.
Before I move to any particular speech, I'd like to ask all 4 of you that during this lockdown, people were helping the needy and all, but there was one section which was grossly neglected, ignored, and that was the stray dogs and cats. People were complaining that during normal time, these stray dogs and cats used to get food from, roadside dhabas, eateries, and, people used to walk on the road, drop something on the pavement so that, animals can have. But during this lockdown, no one was going out. All these roadside eateries were closed. So did any one of you all thought or did anything for these stray dogs and cats? Yes, Mr. Vishwanathan.
Wow Momo had been, they had thought about this, and they ensured they fed around 2,000 dogs every day. They're numbered to around 2 or 3 organizations who cater to such activities. They collected food over there, distributed for nearly 20-25 days that I know of.
Yes, actually, I'm also a part of National Restaurants Association of India. So
okay.
It was actually a very nice, this for the others, already. It was this huge discussion. So everyone give me chicken bones. And we are like, you can't use chicken bones. That's dangerous for dogs. So, for like 2.5 hours, we were debating on what food was right for dogs. Then we, sort of said, no, this all is okay. So this was from there. However, in Lake Town, there was a problem because, people are not so organized for stray dogs. But in South Calcutta, what happened, we had proper, we had WhatsApp groups, and they were all properly, there were time schedules, and they had a proper, you have to wear this to go out and feed, and you will feed here. So places which I personally know, Taliganj, Mudiali, Jodhpur Park, these were all covered. There's not a single hungry stray dog there. But I really don't know about Central Calcutta that much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would like to ask Mrs. Ghazala Yasmin that, she has been working with this Aksh Foundation, and they have been helping the slum dwellers, the migrant workers, those who are living in Basti, the most vulnerable section of our society. What would be your suggestion to other groups or individuals who would like to help these slum dwellers? Because, those who live in slum, they have got their own set of challenges. So what would you like to suggest to these groups who would like to help them?
Yeah, so Shanshabai, the biggest challenge that we faced, in fact, it was a very tricky terrain in the sense, these people that I'm talking about, these slum dwellers or busty people, they are very, kind of, high on their self-respect too. So perhaps, even if they are like, remaining hungry for days inside their homes, they would not, kind of venture out onto the streets and, kind of, beg out, out of their hands that, okay, yeah, I need the food. So so for us to kind of, we really thought over it as to how do we reach them. And like Vishwanath ji already said, that I mean, the photo ops were important, the photographs were important, but then what we did that, we would kind of, take pictures of preparation of the distribution of food packets rather than going and, clicking pictures of us giving the food, because then you become, there's a hierarchy or a hegemony that is created, and we didn't want that. But then, again, we had to, have those pictures to show our credibility that look, we are distributing food. And like I said, it was, the beauty of what we did was the fact that it was completely a crowd funded initiative. So it was not a one person, endeavor, everybody coming together with a 500 or a 5,000. It was completely on the person concerned. So we needed that kind of social media coverage also to kind of, let other people also join us in a movement. And that really helped us by,
Absolutely.
us putting pictures on Facebook and things like that. To get to these people who would not perhaps come out and still, try to reach out to them because they were starving, the children were starving, was a very difficult task. So we actually kind of, surveyed. We could not do it on a very large scale. Central Calcutta is big enough. So we kind of, did a survey with the help of, local volunteers in the area. And we prepared a list of, households where we wanted to reach out. And we were very specific to kind of, cater to. I want to say this most often than not, if it's a kind of a political initiative or otherwise, so, we wanted to cover all religion and all faiths.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so we specifically tried out to reach out to the Sikh community. We contacted, in fact, when I was putting all this up on Facebook and all, I was getting a lot of, calls, distress calls from different places. And like somebody from Loreto contacted me. They are these rainbow children who stay in the Loreto school, but because of the lockdown, they could not go anywhere. The nuns were not getting enough money to kind of, the resources were suddenly curtailed. So we kind of, reached out to say 150 rainbow children there. I was contacted by Anjali. It is a mental health rights institute. So, there are these people who nobody thinks about, the mentally unwell people, and they are staying there in these, they're not asylums, they're these homes, and nobody thinks about them. So little things. So we asked them that what is the kind of food you need. So apart from the grocery stuff, the ration, the dal and the chawal, they simply said, some chuda or some biscuits would help them, to munch in the evenings. So we prepared that. So these were little things. We tried to so people who would not come out on the streets, we just reached out to them, going to their households and delivering things discreetly. And, another very important thing which this COVID situation has, thrown up is the fact that there has to be a lot of stress on mental health. So how to deal with it. So thankfully, we have a lot of doctors, you would know Dr. Masood Batin and a lot of other doctor friends who were there in our group. So we were also trying to create an awareness in terms of, not just about physical hygiene and, things like that, which is important for COVID, but how would you, keep yourself mentally stable? So we did some awareness videos and all, and we tried to reach it out to different sections. So these were the, little issues that we could cover up.
Thank you. We have a very important member from International Relations Council, Shoykot Mazumdar. He would like to speak something.
Until this webinar actually happened, in spite of being watching news 24 hours a day, 24/7, I actually had no clue that this is the extent of human empathy and the kind of service each of you have done. And especially Mr. Vishwanath, to have initiated this on your own and to take it to this length is beyond my comprehension. I think, and then again, Art of Living to have spread, to have given food to 7 crore, we're talking about real hard numbers. This cannot be done overnight. Lot of organizational strength, which Art of Living has been doing and has done it, proved it again. It never surfaces. You will not hear any news column on it or anybody talking about it. None of us know about it, but look at it, what the ground reality is. See what Yasmin has done. This is also amazing. I mean, I had seen Yasmin in a conference, but she's not only about the personal contributions and our organization, you all will be surprised. Last night, 11 o'clock, my wife told me that Yasmin is on TV, please watch. And then she has continued the fight. She's now talking about how to save ourselves in cyberspace. I think she teaches with that subject. And yesterday she gave total example on which apps to use, how to make your passwords, very rudimentary stuff, but things we have all forgotten. And, we don't care about. This effort is really commendable by everybody. Mr. Chakma, to you especially, I mean, being from a tribal belt and helping so many of your community people, then resolving the issue with Bodh Gaya. See, for everybody, it has been very trying. And you people are the lucky ones, not us. We are sitting at home and enjoying the lockdown of feeling frustrated and mentally down and all the kind of luxuries a human being can afford. But you people have been on the field, helping, and doing something and changing the world. Basically, when I started this, when Devina, Deputy Secretary, she came out with this idea because we were doing webinars with doctors and health workers and this and that. And she said that the real people on the ground are the people who are going out of their way to help without even knowing how much of danger they're putting themselves into. At that point, I thought, yeah, that's a good idea, but I had no clue that this has gone this far. This has gone to this extent. So I thank you all, really thank you all. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, that your life seems to be more meaningful than what I could have done with my life in the last 2 months. It's an eye-opener. Thank you. That's what I wanted.
Thank you. Mrs. Ghazala, Yasmin had talked about mental health, which is something very, very important because this 3 months of lockdown had affected all of us. The adult, the middle-aged, the children, the women. People are feeling frustrated. There's a pall of gloom all over. There's a lot of uncertainty. Now, I would like to know very briefly from Mrs. Ishani Priyadarshani, what role art of living can play, for those, who are depressed, who are having a lot of negative thoughts. You had mentioned about it, but, just for the sake of our viewers who had tuned in late, can you tell us briefly that how art of living, how meditation can help people like this situation?
Actually, I'll just be blunt. Art of living can help people in any situation. But in this situation, we just need it more. So, the thing is, there are a lot of self-help books. There are a lot of people telling us, don't get angry. Don't lose your mind, right? But when you're losing your mind, it's very difficult to remember a book and remember, oh, it's bad to be angry. So what happens is, art of living, yeah, it does teach yoga, pranayama, and meditation. But as I said before, very briefly, the jewel in the crown is the Sudarshan Kriya. It's a very powerful breathing technique that you do. And once you practice it every day, all these things in the books, don't get angry, don't lose your mind, starts happening internally. The WHO had done a research on this about 30 years back, and they said that when you do the Kriya, every cell of your body gets oxygenated. Right. So what happens? Our cells regenerate every 42 days. So in 42 days, it's almost like you have a new body. So you are not just disease-free, you're also stress-free. And our whole day, there are so many things, so many people to do, so much to do. We are constantly focusing on the outside. When we meditate, that 20 minutes that we sit and focus on ourselves inside, that actually gives us a lot more clarity, a lot more focus, and a lot more happiness than anything external could ever give us. But the problem here, Shanshaji, is I am telling you, you're listening. If you meditate, you know what I'm talking about. But people who don't know, just don't know, which is why, again, like people talked about photographs. So here, we encouraged people, especially doctors and staff working with COVID patients who did that, to come out and speak about their experience to their staff, to their members, And like people like, say, Ghazala or Vishwanathji, who went out, we told them, hey, we don't care what you do the rest of the day. Sit with us for 2 hours, for 4 days on Zoom. Get yourselves immune first, then go. It helped because, there's a lot of exposure. a lot of exposure. In fact, the first corona positive patient was a neighbor who was 63 and he was diabetic and he still went out to help people. So now, so I think, again, so one thing, but if we keep how we are doing is we are trying to reach out to the youth separately through the social media, through word of mouth, because we firmly believe if more and more people do it, we'll have a little bit of a happier place.
Thank you. Wonderful. Dr. Chakma, would you like to share something else?
My concern is much more, say, the migrant people who have come back to their rural setup. So regarding their livelihood and future thing, that remains there. How they will survive in the days ahead. So many of them may not get back their job. That is more certain. Now, with this concern, just day before yesterday, we were talking online with our community people over there. So many of them came up with some kind of suggestion like, organic farming, raising little bit of orchard, some kind of cash crop going, some spices growing. And I told them that, certification procedure of that organic product, whatever they grow in a small scale, as well as channeling those, produce to bigger market in India will remain as a kind of challenge. But yet we have started working on this. There are people, many of our monks are really qualified enough. Many of them actually studied, at a university. So some of them assured me that they will be working for them and they will be trying their best to guide them. And then we are already communicating with some agriculturists, horticulturists, in this regard. And I remain concerned about all over our country. I don't know how to resolve this kind of crisis situation. We have to not only confine our effort, only this current situation. The challenge is also lying ahead. That's my humble submission. Thank you.
Yeah, you are right, because now the lockdown has been partially lifted. The country is limping back to normal. A lot of activities have started. And we can't continue with this humanitarian help forever. We need that people should get back their job, they should start their businesses, they should start their unit, and they should go back to their offices. Of course, with a lot of safety and precautions, as it has been, directed and as it has been advised by the government from time to time. So, any last word from you, Mr. Vishwanathan?
3 sentences. Be positive, do good. If you do good, better will follow.
Thank you. So dear friends, it was lovely having you all this morning, and I'm very happy that all of you all could take out time. We are extremely grateful to all of you. And the work that you all have been doing, it's fantastic. A lot of people, they sit in their drawing room, they sip coffee and they talk about, doing a lot of humanitarian work, doing a lot about social work, charity work, but people like you who have been very well in public life, despite that, you all have been able to take out to those who need it. And before we finally wind up, I would like to hand over to Devina Sharma for closing comments.
For the closing note, we would like to thank everybody for being a part, speakers, audience, as well as Mr. Mirza for conducting as well as giving their input. And yes, we did not expect this to be such a huge success. And it was engrossing, it was interesting, as well as extremely inspiring. We hope to collaborate with you all in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.